Hello there. Welcome to Nerd.World and my list of the top 6 Doctor Who villains. But before we get started, if you like this video or any others on this channel, please like, share, subscribe, head over to my other channel, Nerd.World Films. I've been getting a bit more content on that channel recently. Like, share and subscribe over there, and with that said, let's get started. In the number 6 spot, we have the Sontarans. Now, I have done a video recently on the Sontarans, which I'll link somewhere, as they were one of the best warrior races. The Sontarans, though, do make a very interesting Doctor Who villain. They are a race of clones who are obsessed with war and defeating their enemy, the Rootans, but pretty much they will fight anybody. Whenever they turn up, you know something bad is going to happen. In the new era of Doctor Who, they are portrayed as relatively squat, whereas in the original series back in the 70s and 80s, they were a lot taller, closer to human height. They have a pale brown skin complexion, kind of look like a potato with their large heads and little ears, and kind of scrunched up face in the middle of it all. They are, as I said, very militaristic, and are generally going to cause the Doctor a bad day whenever and wherever and whenever they show up. In the number 5 spot, we have the Cybermen, one of the most synonymous villains in the Doctor Who universe and canon. The Cybermen have turned up in pretty much every series of Doctor Who in one incarnation or another, starting many years ago as the Mondasian Cybermen, originally evolving on Earth's sister planet in the Sol system and becoming the Cybermen. Originally, as I say, starting out as the people of Mondas. They would attempt to cyberform many worlds in the continuity of that universe. Now, later series, after the Cybermen had pretty much gone extinct, they would evolve again in a parallel universe and make their way over into our universe, although in that universe they were created not on Mondas but on Earth, and were a corporate creation in order to extend human life. And they would refer to cyberforming as upgrading, as they would see it as a genuine improvement to the human species to become a Cyberman, as you would live longer, you would be stronger, healthier, etc. And they removed all your weaknesses as they saw them, your emotions, your feelings, your fear, your doubt, everything that made you human, basically everything but your brain and your nervous system. And in some later versions it was more like almost like a cyber suit that grafted to your body and then, I don't know, bonded to you somehow. Rather than them going through the surgical process of removing the brain, they would keep basically more of the body, and the suit would serve as a sort of life support system for your carcass, I assume, as your body probably was pretty much redundant. I assume it was just increasing efficiency. But the Cybermen were a constant threat, and like the Daleks, no matter how many times they were destroyed, they just kept coming back, to the point where in the distant future the human empire resorted to burning an entire galaxy just to get rid of them. A single Cyberman on the planet was a justification to blow up the entire planet, and humans would simply detonate the planet, would implode a planet to kill that one Cyberman. It was an imperial standing order that this one bomb would be used, and they just go, nah, we're not going to try and fight it, just kill it, we don't give it a chance to reproduce. Now that's an enemy to be afraid of. Now at the number 4 spot, we have the Master. An obvious villain, but a great one. Like the Doctor, the Master was a Time Lord, and as a result there have been many incarnations of the Master. All of them slightly different, although with the same basic theme. I'm going to focus mostly on Missy, who's a particular incarnation of the Master who I particularly enjoyed. Forgetting the whole thing about turning from a man to a woman controversy in Doctor Who, Missy was a great villain. I mean, really great. She had great screen presence. She was kind of menacing. How she took the Master's, sort of the previous Master's sense of humor and sort of comedy in just killing people and destroying things and causing chaos and anarchy, and combined that with a genuine sense of threat, with a piercing glare and a callous attitude that just isn't matched by some of the other Doctor's enemies. The Master, or Missy rather, was a compelling villain who you really felt you no way of knowing what she was going to do. She might just turn around and kill you, she might give you a hug, but she was always dangerous. From allying with the Cybermen to create an army for the Doctor to prove that he was as bad as her, to switching sides in the end, at the end of her particular run, and trying to become an ally. She was unpredictable, she was chaos, she was anarchy, and she was amazing. Now, getting into the top ones at number 3, we've got the Silence. Now these creepy fuckers really got me a few times when I was first watching them. You only know they exist when you look at them. The moment you look away, they're gone. You forget them. You forget you ever heard of them. You forget you ever saw one. Nothing. They're something out of the corner of your eye. They're something you may have dreamt. They're something you imagined, but they're not something you ever really saw. They've been there pulling the strings behind humanity and behind others for thousands of years, until the Doctor very cleverly used their own perception filter against them and convinced all of humanity that upon immediately seeing any member of the Silence, they were to kill them immediately, attack them, and then forget it happened, forget they'd done it. This undermined the Silence's power over humanity forever, but not before giving me, nightmares about these things. They were genuinely kind of creepy in appearance and in behavior, and have been an interesting recurring villain throughout the more modern series of Doctor Who. At our number 2 spot, they really don't need any introduction, we've got the Daleks. The upside down dustbins and plunger of a villain of Doctor Who. Now, I don't actually think they're that scary in appearance, but they're very scary in concept. Basically, intergalactic, transdimensional race of space Nazis that believe in their own supremacy above all other life. If it doesn't exist to serve them as, say, as a food source, which I don't even think they really need, as the actual Dalek casing is pretty much everything they need, then it doesn't need to exist. They have had all of their emotions removed by their creator, Davros, who is by birth from the planet of Skaro and is technically from a race called Kaleds. The Kaleds were naturally mutating into a new species, and Davros was one of their greatest scientists. He actually created the Dalek armor, because despite some common misconceptions about Doctor Who, the Daleks are not robots. They're not even cyborgs like the Cybermen. The Dalek is actually a living, breathing creature, but it kind of looks like a sort of like someone just kicked a squid within an inch of its life, poked one of its eyes out, and then thought, I feel sorry for that, I'll put it in this little chair and leave it there. It's effectively what they look like. They're a hideous, grotesque little thing that's like a brain with tentacles and an eye, just there to hate you. The actual creature itself is venomous and is incredibly intelligent, but is relatively, and I mean relatively, harmless without its Dalek casing. It's not going to get very far. Realistically, it finds it easier to move in water, can't really get around too easily, but it is still a very dangerous adversary. When placed inside of its metal casing, in its battle armor, it becomes a fearsome weapon, protected by advanced shields, the Dalekanium armor, which I know is a stupid name, and equipped with some of the most advanced weaponry in the galaxies, across time and space. The Dalek's greatest weapon, though, is its mind. Every individual Dalek is a genius that hates all other life. One of the any Dalek on any world, put in any room with any group of people, is more or less going to be the smartest person in the room. The only problem is it's going to want to kill everyone in the room. Daleks rarely cooperate well with other species and very, very rarely will form alliances, and those alliances are very unlikely to last very long, realistically only lasting as long as the Dalek can restrain itself from killing you. They don't allow any genetic deviation within their species, and any Dalek born with a mutation or which feels another emotion is exterminated by the other Daleks, who basically, despite the fact that they themselves are an evolution of the Khalid race, they don't want to evolve any further, as they basically see themselves as perfect. In one continuity, the Dalek Emperor would create a number of hybrid Daleks using human DNA, as humans in a sense could be seen as a sort of near Khalid race, as the two races were physically very similar. But even though he did create these new Daleks out of humans, these Daleks were insane. They were mad, driven insane by their own hatred, because they hated anything that wasn't pure, and they themselves weren't pure. They revered the Emperor as a god, but when they finally encountered pure Daleks, those pure Daleks, although possibly showed the only Dalek equivalent of gratitude I've ever seen, which was giving them a moment to prepare for extermination, but they were going to be exterminated because they were unclean and they were impure Daleks, not true Daleks, even though they'd been instrumental in their creation. This just shows the malevolent nature of a Dalek. Okay, so at the number 1 spot, I bet you thought it was going to be the Dalek, and to be honest I was kind of tempted just because of the obvious one. I don't know, I'm going with the most terrifying, creepiest, possibly most disturbing villain that ever genuinely made me jump or actually be a little afraid of. The Weeping Angels. I mean, from the first appearance in Blink, an episode that barely even has the Doctor in it, or his companion, or any of the main cast really, has the Weeping Angels. Basically abstract life forms that can only move when you're not looking at them. It's kind of creepy. I mean, you blink and bang, they're closer. Blink, bang, they're closer again. Blink, they're in your face. Blink again, you're back in time. They feed off your potential energy, the life you could have led. The vacuum of what was you going to be there is gone, and they feed off that potential energy that you would have had, sent back in time to live out your days. The nicest psychopaths in the universe, to quote the Doctor. They kill you without killing you. They were the best, I think the best addition to the new Doctor Who series of all of its villains. I mean that completely. Even if I do another video like this in the future, I still stand by that statement. They were and are the best. Even if they do get a little less intimidating every time they appear, as they, I mean, turning one into the Statue of Liberty, that was ridiculous. But the actual first appearance in Blink, that episode is my favourite all-time episode of Doctor Who. I recently rewatched it, and I probably watched it more than any other episode. As an episode in a bottle, I think it's great. And the Weeping Angels are genuinely scary and genuinely freaky. Especially if you ever see any of the behind the scenes where the actresses or where the costumes are moving. They look even creepier to see them move. Best villains, without a doubt, Doctor Who's ever made. Okay, well that's the end of the video. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you, you're amazing. Did you agree with the list? Are there any that I missed? Are there any Doctor Who villains that you think should have been should I have made the Daleks number 1? Should the Master be number 1? Should a specific incarnation of the Master perhaps have been number 1? Don't know. But if you got any thoughts, please comment below. Any suggestions for any others? If you wanted me to do another one of these videos on Doctor Who, I'd love to do it. I love Doctor Who. Maybe not so much nowadays, but I used to love Doctor Who. Please like, share and subscribe. And with that said, bye-bye.
They're coming. Don't blink. Don't even blink. Blink and you're dead.